time to make the famous shepherd's pie. It's still a little warm outside today, but the temperature is dropping. And so by the time this is ready this evening, I think we will be good to go. And it'll be a delicious meal. I'm starving. I haven't eaten a lot today, so hopefully I can make it through till it's all made. I've got my Temple Bar shirt on, as you can see. The place is awesome. Just saying. If you ever get the opportunity, go have some fun. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started on the shepherd's pie. I am going to be using ground lamb in this one. Technically, like the terminology is, if you're doing ground lamb, you do shepherd's pie. If you're doing like ground beef, then it's a cottage pie. But really, I've done it both ways. They both taste great. I've even heard people using like ground venison. I don't think ground chicken or turkey would work really well in this case. But we're gonna go the traditional route today and do ground lamb. So get started with the potatoes first off. So the scraps will either go out to the chickens or out to compost bin, depending on how many treats the chickens have had over the past few days. After you get the potatoes started, go ahead and chop and saute 1 onion. Once the onion is slightly translucent, go ahead and add in 1 pound of your ground meat. For herbs, add in 2 teaspoons dried parsley, 1 teaspoon dried rosemary, and 1 teaspoon dried thyme. Cooking, not baking, so of course I'm not using measuring spoons, just guesstimating it. Add in 2 cloves of pressed or diced garlic. Add in chopped carrots. I went ahead and did about 1 cup. Throw in some peas too. I went a little heavier on them just because they're fresh frozen out of my garden. Add in a tablespoon or 2 of Worcestershire sauce. A couple tablespoons of flour. And a couple tablespoons of tomato paste will be the base for your roux. So for the next step, you can go ahead and do 1 cup of beef broth, or I'm gonna do half a cup of chicken broth because that's what I had on hand, chicken bone broth. And then add in half a cup of a dark amber beer, preferably Guinness. I mean, if we're going all Irish, then preferably Guinness. But so half a cup of each, and throw that in there and get the roux going with the flour and tomato paste that was put in there. There's the mixture of chicken broth and half a cup of chicken broth, half a cup of beer. Don't make a mess. It's splattered everywhere. Oh. that made like instant gravy in here. I'll show you guys here in a second. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. It's not quite doing it justice, but nice thick gravy. Now that that gravy's made and it's all good to go in there, we're gonna leave it sitting on the stove. You can turn it on a really low heat if you want, but I just turned it off. I'm gonna go ahead and get the mashed potatoes ready to go for the topping. And at this point, you probably wanna go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees to get it going. So you guys are gonna have to bear with me in this video because that window faces west. And dinner time, this time of year, is when the sun's setting. So I know the beginning of this video was probably a hot mess, a little bit with the sun and the shadows and whatnot, but hopefully oven's ready for it to go in, so I need to get those mashed potatoes done. And you notice compared to other videos, I went ahead and just dumped in half a stick of butter, threw in some cold milk, because this is going in the oven anyway. It's not being served up on a platter right now, so it doesn't matter if that milk's gonna make those potatoes a little cold. It's gonna get reheated in the oven. So that is a difference from what I had done previously. Hubby telling me it smells delicious. When putting on the mashed potatoes, that is what you don't want to try to do. Try to avoid that. You want to just have a nice clean top if at all possible, because it just looks way prettier. But, you know, as you've seen in all my other videos, I am far from perfect, so we'll just make it as pretty as we can and it will taste just fine. Maybe went a little heavy on the mashed potatoes, but my husband definitely will not turn his nose up at too thick of mashed potatoes on here. And actually, it probably looks like it might be okay. Last step is putting on the cheese. Traditionally, it's like a cheddar cheese. I prefer white cheddar cheese on it as opposed to the yellow orange one. And I went ahead and bought Sharp this time around. See how that goes. White cheddar cheese isn't overly sharp to begin with, so I think this will be perfect on there. Is in the oven at 350 degrees. I'm gonna let it go about 20 minutes and see where we are at on the crispy crust with the cheese and how it's bubbling up. You want it to be bubbling around the edges of the mashed potatoes, and then the cheese getting nice and gooey and golden on the top. I mean, everything's already cooked, so we're just heating it through completely. Probably could have gone just a smidge longer, but it was bubbling at the edges and it's crunchy, getting a little brown crust. And I have people who are starving because I got started on this a little late. So we're gonna go ahead and let this sit for just like a minute to solidify a little more and digging in. try not to burn my tongue. Delicious. I'm really kind of digging that half broth, half beer method. Again, if you don't have the beer or you don't want to use it, just go ahead and do a cup of broth. It'll be fine. Delicious is what it'll be. All right, guess I call him and say, because I really don't need to eat all of that by myself. So, dinner!